Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology. A cynical optimist, you are the first one in. So, salute to you. Let's see. Yeah, so this morning, we're not going 2 hours today. We're not going 2 hours today. There's no time. I was actually up early. Um, and there are a ton of things to do. And there won't be a stream next Saturday because I won't be here. I'll be off. I'll be out somewhere doing something else. So there won't be a stream next Saturday. And yeah, I think I'm uh, getting to the point of needing to take a break, and that typically happens in August. So let me shout some of you guys out. So Cynical Optimist, you were the first one in. As someone says, AB Media, you're batting second. Jamal's batting fourth. And then Tony is batting fifth. No. Let me do that again. Cynical Optimist is batting first. AB Media is batting second. Jamal is batting third. Tony's batting fourth. UFO Kamikaze is batting fifth. All right, I probably need another sip of my coffee here. Let me a couple of things. Let me see if my brother's still joining us. And then we'll start. So we're going to revisit freezing eggs this morning. One of the happenings and one of the scientific techniques and one of the science current events of our time. Hold on. All right. Well, he responds. AL Evans is in the chat. Thank you for being here, AL. Jamal and AL, I'm going to give you guys wrenches. If you just give me a moment here, I want to announce this over on my uh, original signaling tower. All right. YouTube brought that right up for us. Okay. Do you guys know anyone who has frozen their eggs? I mean, we all know Ebony K. Williams, but do you guys know anybody in your personal circle who has frozen their eggs? I know one person, and I said this. I created content on this a couple of years ago. All the months and days and years are running together now. But I have someone in my professional circle who's a friend. I would consider her a friend, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so she opted to do it, I think, so that her eggs would not be damaged by the chemotherapy. Okay, so this process, and then once she beat the cancer, knock on wood, uh, she beat the cancer, but that she didn't wait 10 years to use those eggs. Her and her husband used those eggs, I think, immediately. And I wonder if we never talked about this, it's personal. I wonder if she actually used the eggs, or if she was able to, if they were able to um, procreate by natural means once she beat the cancer. All right, let's see. I don't see anybody in my backstage. Okay, there's me on the channel. Thank you guys for all the likes. Thank you for whoever gave me the like before the stream started. So Jamal, you now have a wrench. This is a small channel, but I like to reward those of you who come back and listen to this, listen to science, who care about this type of thing. Um, I haven't had any detractors over here yet, except for that time when I did the stream on antinatalism. So there really hasn't been a need. It's still a small channel. There really hasn't been a need. There really hasn't been a need to ban or block anybody. So there really hasn't been a need for that. So you guys really won't have to block or ban anybody. But I like to reward you guys for coming back with wrenches, and some of you guys donate. I appreciate that as well. All right, my brother is backstage. I have Garrett Morgan queued up here, so I'm gonna play the intro, and then we're gonna learn a little bit about Garrett Morgan, and then I will jump into the main event. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. This morning, we're going to be using the Dr. Thunder model in that we're going to do some video analysis. So I'll see you guys on the other side of the intro, and I'm going to go turn the air conditioning back on.
So Amar, I see you have the periodic tables on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that all about? Why are you walking around with a chemistry chart on your chest?
Well, Cheryl, so this channel is a STEM channel. So when I was conceiving of it and figuring out how to grow it, I figured I should have some t-shirts to go with it. So the periodic table is critical to most of the scientific fields.
Welcome to Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. Science and technology are all around us, all of the time, and there are always science and technology stories to tell.
There are always science and technology stories to tell, whether or not we're talking about some of the implications of the big beautiful bill, or Black history, or this current phenomenon of freezing eggs, whether it's for waiting for one's career to be further enough along, or waiting for a suitable mate to appear, or whether it's artificial intelligence, automation. There are science and technology stories to tell all of the time. But going forward, I want to devote just the beginning of these streams to, as long as we can, discuss Black history in the context of inventors and notable contributors to the United States as we know it, because a lot of these inventions have been critical to the lives that we have now. And they've impacted everybody, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic. So with that, and I have to give enough notice in the future going forward. With that, I'm going to welcome back up my brother Amal Dunbar, who has devoted some of his time to capturing and reminding us of Black inventors and innovators. And also, he got me on the AI train. The thumbnail for this stream is from, I think it's Google Labs or something like that. I'm still figuring out how to properly create thumbnails, but you guys, if you've been following me, you see that my thumbnails have at least taken a short evolution up to this point. So let me bring up my brother Amal, and we'll learn about Garrett Morgan. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, bro?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming back.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
I have Garrett Morgan queued up here, and I will show him on the screen, and I will mute my mic and pass it to you.
Sure, bro. Just keep clicking through the images as I'm speaking.
Mhm.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, by the way, that AI app, because I know there are three you like using. That's Google Labs.
You either used image effects or Whisk. That's those are two of Google's primary um, AI image generative art apps. So was the so for the app that you used, uh, was the background gray or was there some yellow in the interface?
Uh, there was well, my phone. I have my phone set to conserve power, so most of my screens are black. But when I tell it
Okay.
to do something, you can see the window kind of doing this gray nebulous thing, and then it spits
Okay.
the image out.
Okay. Were there four images created at once, or were there two?
Just one. I asked it to make a specific image of something,
Okay.
and it did it.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, well,
All right, take it away.
good morning, everyone. This morning we are going to discuss Garrett Morgan, more appropriately, Garrett Augustus Morgan Sr. His name actually sounds like his name makes him sound like he's like an NFL quarterback or like an NFL running back. But nonetheless, just for context, Garrett was born in 1877 in the Paris, Kentucky area. And once he was established and settled, he lived in the Cleveland, Ohio area. His most notable inventions are the modern day traffic signal and the modern day gas mask. Now, in terms of the gas mask, its initial name was the safety hood. So, bro, if you could just keep strolling through these images, yes, yeah. And so, um, when it comes to the gas mask or its first name, the safety hood, imagine imagine how important it has been for the the evolution of a firefighter's equipment. Oftentimes when you see on the news or maybe in person, you'll see firefighters entering a smoking building and they're wearing some sort of apparatus on the face. So, bro, if you can keep scrolling, just keep on clicking
Okay.
so that
Yeah,
the
yeah, man.
audience can
Just
see.
prompt me. Typically, when during webinars, speakers say next slide. But I was thinking, SWAT teams and law enforcement, they use these right when they're trying to control riots, and also military use these when rogue nations are using bioweapons.
Absolutely. I mean, the applications are I'll say the applications are countless. If you want to talk about entering a burning building, or if you want to talk about law enforcement dealing with uh, a some sort of a riotous or unruly crowd, and there is tear gas dispensed. Law enforcement, they have to keep themselves safe, and part of that would be using a gas mask, or if maybe in the context of military personnel. Next slide. Military personnel entering an area that has been bombed. So there are numerous applications for the gas mask, and it's just a part of our landscape that we take for granted. We think that things like this or technology like that have always been around. Now, when it comes to uh, Garrett's traffic signal, again, for people our age, um, and even younger, we take that for granted that there has always been a traffic signal to help, as these articles describe, to operate and enhance traffic management. I mean, that's a lot to say, but it's a simple system, and it works so well that it has been adopted around the world. Next slide, please. So we take for granted that the
So,
traffic
bro,
signal.
there are four here, so I went through all four.
Okay. Okay. I mean, if you want to go back to the beginning, you can actually, bro, you can actually leave it on that second image. Perfect. Perfect. Um, yeah, we just take for granted that the modern day, three light traffic system has always been around, and it has been adopted around the world. Sure, you can go to different cities and different states and see different versions of the traffic signal, especially in cities that have larger volumes of traffic. You'll see the the left green arrow. You'll see like a double left green arrow, or like a a red light signaling, like a no turn on red. Like there are so many intersections in our country where you can make the the right turn on a red light. Well, now in some cities and in some intersections, there is the red light blocking the no turn on red, or the blocking the turn on red. So it seems as though the traffic signal is it seems as though the technology is growing, as traffic gets as the volumes of traffic become larger. Then also, uh, uh, Garrett Morgan, he got into the hair products line industry. He'd actually created a company called the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company. Um, and this was a full line of hair care products. Garrett was also involved in uh, African American civics and political advancement, especially in and around the Cleveland area. So he was very active, not just as an entrepreneur and an inventor. He was also involved in the civil rights upliftment when it came to African Americans.
Okay, thank you for that, bro. I was thinking when you were talking about how the traffic light is still evolving. I was thinking with these autonomous cars, will there have to be some sort of new addition to the technology?
That is a great question. That is a great question. That that very ma- that very that may very well have to be the case, where these driverless cars can actually see the the stoplight and figure out what specific information is for autonomous driving vehicles. There may have to be an actual lane, for autonomous driving vehicles.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else on this topic?
Um, well, I would just reiterate, imagine a world where uh, fire departments. I mean, at some point, someone would have developed something um, for firefighters, or for firefighters to enter burning buildings, or for miners to enter dangerous mining areas or mining shafts, not knowing what they're breathing. So if you can imagine all of the mining companies that have extracted uh, materials from precious gems to precious metals, out of dangerous areas. The gas mask, or Garrett's safety hood, would have been critical to the extraction of certain materials out of dangerous mines. So this invention has been pretty significant around the world and for multiple purposes, as well as his three light traffic signal.
Okay. Well, thank you for this, bro. Yeah. As you were presenting Garrett Morgan, I was just thinking about the first time I heard of Garrett Morgan, and that was in a hip hop track that was "You Must Learn" by KRS-One. And I was also thinking back to our many, many Black History Church programs. Uh, um, these individuals never came up. And I mean, there are reasons for that. I think that just uh, the passing on of this history in the 50s, 60s, and 70s wasn't optimal. Our school systems didn't weren't very vigilant about passing this part of the history on when describing science and technology history. But I had to listen to a hip hop track to hear about Garrett Morgan and uh, uh, Granville Woods. Have you done Granville Woods yet?
Um, I have not heard of him. What is his IP? What is his patent?
According to KRS-One, the walkie-talkie. And then I think you did Lewis Latimer as well. He mentions Garrett Morgan, Granville Woods, and Lewis Latimer in "You Must Learn."
Wow. Okay. I will look up and research Mr. Granville Woods. Thank you, bro.
Okay, because I could see that being an ancestor to these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I have to. I've got to find him now.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else?
No, bro. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this
Absolutely.
on behalf of everybody.
Of course. Of course.
All right, bro. Talk to you soon.
All right, bro. Take care. Love you.
Love you
Peace.
too. All right, everyone. That was Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan, and I here in the DMV. What's interesting is um, there are a lot of professionals, a lot of white collar professionals here in the DMV. It's the home of the federal government. And prior to the global health crisis, I'm not going to say what it is, because at one point YouTube was highly policing any talk of the 2020 global health crisis. But before that, I was doing a lot of career days and even just rubbing elbows with other government employees from other agencies. I would be told, you're the first Black scientist that I've met. So think about that. Me, Dr. Dunbar, the first Black scientist that these lawyers, program managers, program analysts, uh, 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 division directors, division heads, uh, uh, all these white collar professionals here in the DMV, the Black ones would tell me, you're the first STEM, you're the first Black scientist, you're the first pharmacologist that I've ever met. Think about that. That means that at some point, well, there weren't a lot of people involved in those areas growing up for those individuals, or they just fell off the STEM train at some point in K through 12 and undergrad. So that speaks to the low level of knowledge and background in these areas in the communities that we come from. All right, before we jump into the main event, shout out to Dr. Thunder, the main event. You guys know that my main for the Big Words LLC. If you look at my book, that's the publisher of this. The Big Words LLC creates content. It's most of its revenues right now come from search engine optimization. So I'm a blogger, but I also publish content for a customer or customers. And I just published this one today. This one is called, and I promise we're going to get to the main event shortly. This one is called Gardening, a great hobby for science lovers. It's a short read. I'll drop the link there in the chat in case there are any readers there. But I was gifted that orchid that's back there in my background, that orchid right there. So I take care of that, and I just noticed that it lost 2 leaves, browned and fell off. It lost 2, but now I could see a green bud sticking out from the stem here, which means that it's growing a new leaf. So that's always fascinating when you have plants and you do gardening and you plant something and you see something poking out of the soil, or you have a plant that's already grown and you see it starting to flower or grow a new leaf. That's kind of cool. So plants are a necessary part of the biosphere, and they're cool to take care of. So if anybody wants to read that, that's there. Do I need to give myself a wrench? No, I don't. No, I don't. Okay, so let's okay, so UFO Kamikaze, I just learned something about you because you said that you had some training. We use them at the Academy for Crowd Management, Rapid Deployment, and Anti-Terrorism Training. Okay, so I just learned something about you today, UFO Kamikaze. He says, you'd imagine vehicles would have carbon monoxide detectors built into the cabin, considering exhaust pipes are directly under it. Okay. But all the exhaust is going out of the rear of the vehicle. Anyway, okay, so let's get on with the main event. So I was initially going to talk about the updates with the big news story this week was the passage of the big beautiful bill. I was getting ready to watch the fireworks last night. Did any of you guys watch the fireworks? I was getting ready to watch the fireworks here in Northern Virginia last night from a remote location where I could see downtown. And I was thinking, we've talked about energy on this channel before. Maybe I'll do a live stream on the big beautiful bill and the rolling back of the EV mandate. So one of the provisions in this big beautiful bill is rolling back of the EV mandate, which is one of the things I think had Elon Musk and Trump uh, quarreling, even though at the beginning of the year they were close associates. So that EV mandate was critical to Elon Musk and also other people who are helping to try to grow the electric vehicle sector. So I think we're gonna keep our eyes on this. But right now, President Trump wants to go back to internal combustion engines and coal and petroleum products. So we'll revisit this. But I found a video um, by Ask an Older Man. That's a channel that I watch. I think Mr. Aiken makes really good content, and he's very much in tune with what's happening now in terms of gender relations and dating and the birth rate crisis. And he's very, very, yeah, and he makes good content on those issues. And so he did something on egg freezing. So I thought we would revisit that. But before we jump in, or should I say, as we jump in, let's get a word from the Revolt lady. So I just did a quick search, and it turns out the Revolt lady, her name is Lene Vinay, the Revolt lady, who was on the Breakfast Club with Jess Hilarious and probably DJ Envy. That is Lene Vinay. And Lene Vinay, well, she was recently with Deontay, what's it, Cobb? Deontay Cobb, and another woman there that's gotten a lot of traction. But my first exposure to Lene Vinay, and thank you, Lene, for this drop. No, let me bring her back up since she helped create this drop. She helped me. She contributed this drop. Her and y'all Borgen contributed this drop, which I think is a nice lead-in for this topic. Anyone with a uterus can have a baby.
Oh, okay.
Only women can have babies. I just want to let you know that.
Interesting. There are other people who can have babies.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if they have a uterus, they can have babies, but they just might
Right.
not identify as women. Those are
Okay.
two different things. Like you can be biologically female, but you can't be biologically woman. Woman is a gender construct, a
Okay.
social construct. But if you got a
Okay.
uterus, yeah, you can have a baby.
Yes, that's the point. If you have a uterus, you can have a baby.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we
Period.
agree on that.
So I think before those brilliant words, I think Jess Hilarious had told her that a good match for her would be someone like Mark Lamont Hill. Okay, we're getting deep into black Twitter and black pop culture and black media right now for those who are not black. But these are supposed to be many of our thought leaders. And and immediately after Jess Hilarious told Lene Vinay that Mark Lamont Hill would make a good partner for her, that's when they got into this brilliant discussion about anybody having a uterus can have a baby.
Oh, okay.
Only women can have babies. I just want to let you know that.
Interesting. There are other people who can have babies.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if they have a uterus, they can have babies, but they just might
Right.
not identify as women. Those are
Okay.
two different things. Like you can be biologically female, but you can't be biologically woman. Woman is a gender construct, a
Okay.
social construct. But if you got a
Okay.
uterus, yeah, you can have a baby.
Yes, that's the point. If you have a uterus, you can have a baby.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we
Period.
agree on that.
All right. Well, thank you, Lene Vinay, for that. And I'm going to cue the video up in a moment, but just a quick, it's a science channel, so we should talk some science. And so what makes a woman and having a uterus? Okay, from a classic sense, scientifically, culturally, spiritually, religiously, what we know is that males and females, men and women, have different reproductive tracts. Okay, so a man has two testicles and a scrotum, and sperm are created in those testes, and a woman has that reproductive tract there, that birth canal, that uterus, and anyone who has one of those uteruses can make a baby. She has those ovaries, the fallopian tubes, the vagina. Okay, this is how, in large part, aside from our secondary sexual characteristics, this is in large part how we designate men and women, boys and girls. I can't believe we're deliberating this today. Anyway, um, here's another blow up of the female reproductive tract: ovaries, the cervix, the fallopian tubes. That's where the eggs make the migration to the cervix area. Where if a woman engages in the forbidden dance with a man, and he deposits his sperm in her, that's in general, that area is where the the conception can occur. And then if the conception does occur and she doesn't abort it, that egg and sperm become a fetus. It divides exponentially and it starts to differentiate into different organ systems, and then you get a developing baby there in that uterus. Okay. Now, what's interesting in many content creators, I mean, I took endocrinology during my undergraduate and graduate studies. Well, what's important to keep in mind, and also designating what's a man and a woman, uh, a woman has a very um, uh, uh, eloquent and sophisticated set of hormone fluctuations. Okay, so during I had the estrogen slide in here. I won't try to hunt it down because we're already at 38 minutes. But for the sake of this discussion, probably the most important hormone for maintaining a pregnancy for those 9 months is progesterone, because progesterone, that maintains the environment in the uterus, which Lene Vinay and Jess Hilarious were just talking about. And that uterus needs to be nice and friendly to the fetus. It needs to supply nutrients to the fetus. It needs to create a nice, habitable uh, environment for that fetus, for it to grow into a baby, which can be delivered 9 months later. Okay, and I think that is depicted here on this slide. Okay, yeah, so you see there, um, it looks like progesterone is actually produced in the ovaries. Estrogen is also produced in those ovaries, and that's um, uh, uh, what when the conception actually happens. I think the uterus actually starts generating its own progesterone. But for um, ladies who are engaging in what we would call geriatric pregnancies, okay, that's a controversial term. It seems that the progesterone falls down. It falls off around 30. So, despite what we're told, or we are not told, pregnancies past 30 gradually become higher risk. And if you remember, going back to our Black media, Ebony K. Williams, she shared that she had to continuously inject herself with progesterone. But that was to make her womb habitable for the baby, which she had. So that's something that women who wait later, they have to contend with. So with that, I think that's a nice introduction to this video. Are you guys familiar with Ask an Older Man? Are you guys familiar with Mr. Paul Aiken Ask an Older Man. I know some of you must be. Let's get rid of Lene Vinay there. Are you guys familiar with Ask an Older Man? Let's get rid of that. Okay, Ask an Older Man. His videos tend to go about 30 minutes. I'm not going to play this entire video. Okay, I realized with the Dr. Thunder model, when you watch a video and give commentary, you're kind of doubling the time. So this is a 30-minute video, so we could easily spend an hour on the entire thing. So I'm going to cut this in half. The first part of the video is the whole video. The link is in the description box in case you want to watch it if you're not subbed to his channel. But the first part of this video builds context for this. There's one woman talking about how her children were a blessing and how before she had them, she looked at it in a selfish way. And then there's another woman there talking about how her friends changed, their lives were permanently altered, and they're not the same friends that they were after they had their children. Okay. And then Paul, Mr. Aiken, segues into his journey. He's got divorced, I think, once or twice. And then he tells the story of being in his early 40s and not wanting to be on his deathbed, wondering what if. So apparently that happens to people. They don't have them. And then just life in general. I was reminded by the same lovely lady who gave me that orchid that the things you regret the most on your deathbed are the things that you didn't do. And I'll just share that when I created my initial content on this. I have content on this back in my library. The question came up: why is Anwar creating content on freezing eggs? The lovely lady was a little bit older, okay, and it was suspicious that I would create content on this topic. I'll let you guys put two and two together. Michael Ross, let me give you a wrench. You don't have a wrench. Surprised you don't have a wrench. Well, now you do. So I'm going to jump to the middle of this video. And Paul, you guys know that I'm a financially minded guy. And this is an event of our time. So for the parents watching this, for the grandparents watching this, don't make the assumption that your sons, your daughters, your grandsons, your granddaughters, your nieces, and your nephews, don't make the assumption that they're going to procreate and make another generation for themselves going forward, because based upon societal changes, based upon the economy, based upon our current gender construct and what ladies are looking for and how this society has altered the trajectory for boys and men, you can't assume that that's going to happen for subsequent generations and in subsequent generations. You can't assume that. All right. So Paul talks about the cost of it. This is going to focus on the cost of it. And the costs of these procedures are quite considerable. Okay. Michael says, I had one. Well, on this channel, yeah, you didn't have one. You might be subbed on my other channel, but you have one now. We have it again. So let's go to about half. We'll go to about here. And this is Paul concluding his story about not wanting to be at the end of his life and not wanting to wonder what if. Okay. Please smash that like button. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you to the person who subscribed this morning and helped push the subscribership up by at least one more. if anyone wants to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal and Venmo and Zelle are there. So fair use, fair use. Salute to Mr. Paul Aiken, the older man who does this every day and who asks the hard questions and who in general cares about humanity and what's going to happen to humanity going forward. Fair use, fair use. So this is him finishing up his story, I think, about his own journey. Fair use, fair use. Whoops. Let's give it some sound.
After you've created something external, after you've focused on yourself, then what? Then what? Then you leave it all to who? You leave it all to your cat, some organization that you don't even know, to people that you're not familiar with? Or do you feel like, wow, I can pass on to someone who is part of me, my legacy? That's the beautiful thing about having kids. So now,
you know, guys, interestingly enough, I have a mentor, a former colleague who retired at my current place of occupation, a Nigerian, a proud Nigerian, a Sigma, a member of Phi Beta Sigma, who went back to his homeland after retirement. And he told us last week, me and another gentleman, he's already done enough for his children, and he doesn't feel like he needs to leave them anything else. He said he earned the money, he's going to spend the money, and he doesn't feel like he needs to leave them anything else. That surprised me. Paul just talked about that, and even in the Bible it says, what is it in Proverbs? A godly man leaves an inheritance to his children and his children's children. Some people feel like, this is my money, I earned it, I've already done what I'm supposed to do, I'm not leaving anything. All right, fair use, fair use. The cost of freezing eggs and unthawing them, and the complications.
now let's listen to what happens when you put off having kids until it's too late, and now you have to freeze your eggs. This is what happens to a lot of women. Let's look at the cost of putting it off till too late.
So a couple years ago, I froze my eggs when I was 28, and I have this one big regret. I regret not realizing that I would have to pay for them every single year, and the price would just keep rising and rising. So when I froze my eggs, the egg storage fee was $650. And this year it went up to $1,250. And I think we talk so much about the procedure and preparing for egg freezing, but we don't talk about that aftermath of you're going to have to keep paying for these eggs.
Guys, let's go back, because I think she said there's a monthly fee. Fair use, fair use. Let's go back. It was $650 and now it's $1,200. For me, that's a mortgage payment. $1,200. That's a mortgage payment for me right now. I don't want to give too much of my business away, but think about that. $650 and then $1,200. Did she say yearly or monthly? Fair use, fair use.
Froze my eggs when I was 28, and I have this one big regret. I regret not realizing that I would have to pay for them every single year, and the price would just keep rising and rising. So when I froze my eggs, the egg storage fee was $650. And this year it went up to $1,250.
Okay, so she froze them when she was 28. She's probably, well, she's in her 30s. Got to be in her, if she's not in her 30s, she's knocking on 30. A very attractive woman. Why would she have to freeze her eggs? Well, she probably hasn't found what she considers to be a suitable mate. Okay, that's a dynamic today. Now, why would that dollar amount go up? Well, everything I talked about, energy. Let's just talk about energy. Let's talk about energy. I've talked about that on this channel. To run a -80 freezer, for those of you who've done experiments, particularly biological experiments, you can freeze things at -80 degrees. You can freeze things at -40. You can freeze things at 4 degrees. All of that involves electricity. So if the cost of the electricity goes up, that's going to be a cost of doing business. Okay. And you need you're either automating the systems watching that freezer, or you have technicians in there, or both, watching that freezer and making sure everything is operating the way that it should. And sometimes freezers go down, sometimes freezers malfunction, and then you have to move the contents of that freezer to another freezer, or else you're going to lose everything. So this is what I'm thinking as I'm watching this for the second time. Fair use, fair use. Jamal says, ouch, and good morning to Giyagami. Do you guys know anyone who has frozen their eggs, and if so, why? Fair use, fair use.
And I think we talk so much about the procedure and preparing for egg freezing, but we don't talk about that aftermath of you're going to have to keep paying for these eggs. Like there is long-term storage options, which I've looked into, but then I would have to transport my eggs and then transport them back somewhere to use them. And I just don't want to risk damaging my eggs in any way. And I am such a huge advocate for women freezing their eggs, especially if you're in your late 20s or early 30s. And it was like such an empowering decision for me and how I live my life, and basically choosing when I can be a mom, which I think is just so amazing. But I just wish I would have known that this was something I would have to budget for every year, and that's a variable expense. And I just think that there needs to be more conversation around it.
So guys, if you think back to my discussion on Margaret Sanger and the invention of the pill, that's a technology. Shout out to the nameless protagonist and the master teacher. What we're experiencing is the technology running out ahead of the biology, and the biology not being able to keep up with the technology. So she said, I wish I had known the financials of this procedure. Well, your mother, your aunts, your grandmother, your great grandmother, they didn't have this available to them. So there was probably no one, other than consulting with these businesses, there was probably no one to give good advice on this. And there was never a need for this before. And you notice she mentioned empowerment. Empowerment, empowerment, empowerment. This was empowering. All right. UFO Kamikaze says Yeti egg freezers coming soon. All right. Fair use, fair use.
They've taken this video down 3 times because it teaches you how to hit lottery tickets every week. Watch now while it's still.
So this is the first thing women got to realize. This shit is expensive. She's just talking about the storage. We're not even getting into the fact that now you got to fertilize the bloody eggs.
I started the egg freezing process. I did some preliminary tests, which showed that my egg count is really low. And I know a lot of women struggle with this. I had a ovarian surgery last January, and I knew that I have endometriosis and had like a giant cyst on my ovary. And the doctors told me that did tell me that might affect my fertility, but we didn't even start like the actual egg freezing, so it still might be that my eggs are high quality, but there's just not a lot of them. It's just so sad. I've been like crying the entire day. And, you know, people say like, oh, you're not alone. This happens to so many women. But I mean, it feels very alone, lonely. I don't know.
Women glorify this whole egg freezing thing.
Did you guys see the doggy? The doggy back there in the background? Poking in. All right, so he's talking about how this procedure is glorified. Fair use, fair use.
Until reality sets in. You've been told, you know, you can put it off. You can put it off. You know, science is there to back you. Women rely on the science, not realizing that science is expensive. Women are biologically designed to have kids when they're when they're most fertile. That's from the age of 16 straight through until 21, 23 max. 24, you can push it to 24. After that, it drops off significantly. And because you have not born a child, things start happening to your insides. She has a cyst. This is the problem that women don't see. They don't think about these things. But no, fell into the old feminist trap. Get the bag, girl, get the bag. Focus on your career. Have fun.
None of my eggs survived the thaw. None of the 15 eggs I paid $16,000 for.
The overachieving eggs.
The overachieving eggs decided not to wake up after being frozen. So for 5 years, I'd had this fake peace of mind that I had an insurance policy that the fertility industrial complex convinced me I had, to not be able to use any one of them. And this doctor was like, I'm so sorry, Destine. And I said, I thought this was an insurance policy. He's like, that's what I hate about this industry is people keep thinking freezing your eggs is an insurance policy. It is an avenue to open up potential options.
Yeah. 15,000 she spent.
Okay. Oh, wow. Well, let me load another one. Hold on, guys. Give me a second. I want to show this. Let's get rid of this one. $15,000. She spent $15,000 on that procedure, and it didn't work out for her. And there was another interesting comment there. He said that Paul said the way the biology works, all of this hormonal cycling starts when women hit puberty. So biologically, okay, this is where science slams into culture. This is where science slams into social programming. This is where science slams into politics. A woman, when she starts this, that's her best time to start having children. Unfortunately, it starts when she's 13, 14. Okay. And then from a biological standpoint, again, a biological standpoint, that's her best time to have children. But the way that our society has evolved, now it's go get your degree, get a job, find a suitable mate, and if she's not told to get those things done simultaneously or early, now you're looking at late 20s, 30s, 40s, which is considered the back end of this reproductive window. This guys, this shows you the menstrual cycle. Okay, so there's a peak there for estrogen around 14 days. There's a maximum generation of the estrogen that causes the egg to release into the fallopian tubes, and then you see there's an increase in the progesterone. Again, that's the hormone that makes that uterus. Shout out to Lene Vinay. That's what makes that uterus nice and habitable for a fetus to grow into a baby for delivery 9 months later. And then if the body, if that senses that a fetus is there, if it attaches, you see how that estrogen it increases gradually, then it decreases. That's what causes the bleeding, because the surface starts to shed away, and that causes the bleeding during menstruation. But if the baby is there, the fetus is there, it will keep going up and up and up until delivery. Okay, let me get back to it. But the point is, biologically, it's supposed to be done early, but our culture and our technology have have incentivized looking into this later. Shout out to Passport OG. Dr. Dunbar is very diplomatic and he says things in nice ways. Very used, very used.
For nothing. The bullshit women tell each other just to make each other justify their stupid decisions in life. When all you had to do was cooperate with a man, build a life from very early, have some nice, comfortable sex, pop out a few kids early, and you would have saved yourself all of this crap. Probably wouldn't even be on TikTok because you would have had a much more fulfilling life.
Last year, I went through an embryo freezing journey and I knew this was going to be expensive, but I didn't realize quite how expensive. So let's break down the entire process and how much I spent. First step was a consultation. Shout out Dr. Nicole Yoder. She's the best. She was my doctor. And this is where she talked me through the science and we took an ultrasound of my ovaries and this was like $300. From there, I started taking an oral medication for 7 days. My insurance covered most.
So that consultation was $300. Very used.
Of it. So I paid about $15. And all the while, I'm going into the doctor's office every 2 to 3 days to get blood work done, get an ultrasound, and talk to my doctor. On week 2, I graduated to then taking 2 shots per day. By week 3, you've graduated to 3 shots a day. So you're having a lot of fun. And for some of them, you even got to mix the medication yourself. And to add insult to injury, these medication packs are like $4,000 to $6,000. We knew we wanted to start our fertility journey, so we opted for a PPO earlier that year. And
so the medication is $4,000 to $6,000. Okay, so we opted to start our fertility journey. I wonder, they look young enough. I wonder why they would do this, unless they feel like they can't afford the children right now. But based upon the amount of money they've already peeled off, well, I don't know. Maybe they did a cost benefit analysis. I don't know, but I'm wondering, does she have some sort of cancer like my colleague, or do they just want to wait? But $4,000 to $6,000. That's a couple of mortgage payments. That yeah, depending upon where you sit on the income and wealth continuum, maybe that's a drop in the bucket, but for some people that is a lot of money. Very used, very used.
fortunately, they covered almost all of it. So we ended up paying a couple $100s for the medication. At this point, you're seeing your doctor every day. And when they deem that you're ready, you'll take a trigger shot and then you'll go for your retrieval about 48 hours afterwards. Retrieval day was actually the easiest of them all because I was put under. I don't even know what happened, but the nurses, doctors, and embryologists in the back were obviously hard at work. The retrieval and all the appointments beforehand worked out to be about $20,000. So all in, this was 25 grand. And yes, I know I look like Cynthia from Rugrats.
So the retrieval was $25,000. Okay, $25,000. Very used.
I'm so grateful to have gone through this experience, and I hope this video helped to explain the price and process a little better. So let me know your questions in the comments.
Watch what nuts do to our body.
Pistachios. Now, these have amazing compounds.
25 grand. Oh, it was great. When all you had to do was get some D earlier in life. That's it. But no, feminism told you, be a boss B. Be a boss B. 25 grand just to pop out a few kids.
Now, I said they looked young enough. Maybe they were in their 30s. I don't know. I don't know how old that gentleman and that Asian woman were. So maybe she is in her, she looked young, but people look young today. So very used.
No. 25 grand. That is just to harvest the eggs. That's it. This has nothing to do with fertilization. All of that shit has to come later on. Thawing the eggs out, that's an extra cost. And then there's a possibility that those eggs are not good or not viable.
What's the difference between me freezing eggs and sperm versus freezing the embryos?
Shout out to Stephen Bartlett, who brought us the discussion with the three feminists. So he's on top of some of these things. So shout out to Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of a CEO. This looks like his TikTok. Very use. Now this talks about the difficulty in actually unthawing the eggs and getting to use them, and it's not a given that this procedure will work.
So this is a good point. So freezing embryos, even if you're going to try to naturally get pregnant later, is helping you know that you can tap into those embryos, later in life. So versus doing IVF at age 39, where you have less eggs and the vast majority are abnormal, you're making those embryos now where they're much better. The process for the woman is exactly the same, whether you're freezing eggs or embryos. You are taking shots of FSH to get 1 month's group of eggs to grow. That takes about 2 weeks.
Guys, FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. So you have to take shots of FSH, okay, and then eventually you have to do the progesterone as well. Fair use.
And then we do a quick procedure to take the eggs out of the body under anesthesia. So none of that is different. What happens is the difference is in the eggs. I always say, if you're freezing eggs, it is not an insurance policy on your fertility. An insurance policy pays off when something bad happens. This is an investment. You're playing the stock market. Is it smart to put your money in investments? Does it usually pay off? Well, it depends on the environment when you go to pull that money out. Eggs are potential opportunities. It's fantastic, and it's much better than nothing. But it's not giving us all of the information, because even if the sperm looks normal and even if the eggs look normal, the real proof of the pudding is seeing how the embryos grow and develop, because not every egg is going to fertilize, become an embryo, or be genetically normal. And even every genetically normal embryo is not going to become a baby. So if I take an average person who is age 30, and let's say we get 20 eggs from going through egg freezing, that is fantastic. You feel super egg rich. That sounds awesome. Now, if we make them into embryos, or when we go make them into embryos, you do often lose some eggs in the freeze thaw of the eggs. Eggs are a single cell, mostly filled with like liquid like water, and then DNA. And
so guys, I'm going to be quick here because I'm at an hour, 8 minutes. Freezing and unfreezing. She said an egg is a single cell, mostly filled with water. Okay, so anytime you freeze a cell line and then you go to unfreeze it, you don't know if those cells are going to be viable and if they're going to grow. So that's just basic biology. So there's a huge risk in putting your eggs in suspended animation at minus 80 degrees for X amount of time. And then when you unthaw them, the question is, will they still work? Will they still do what you want them to do? That's any cell line. That's for insect cells. That's for human embryonic kidney cells. That's for any cell line. In the biomedical sciences, you freeze down cell lines all the time. The question is, when you go to unthaw them, will they still work? So this apparently is a major, at this time, this is a major hitch in this procedure. Fair use.
An embryo is 300 to 500 cells when we freeze it. So embryos are much, much stronger. They survive over 99% of the time. Egg freezing, I told you earlier, it wasn't available 10 years ago when I was your age, because eggs didn't survive the freeze thaw. We were trying it, but they're so fragile. It just took a while to get the tech there. Eggs now survive 90% of the time going through the freeze thaw, which is great, way better than 40%. But it's also not 100. So we have to kind of account for that loss in our equation. So if I have 20 eggs, now I go to thaw them whenever we're ready. And now I have 2 that don't survive. So I have 18. I'm going to go inject them with the perfect sperm. And I would have on average fertilization rates of about 75 to 80%. So let's say 14 of them fertilize. Half of those are not going to make it to an implantation stage embryo, even if everything's perfect. So now I have 7 that have made it to an implantation stage embryo. And then my proportion of normal is based on my age. So if I'm 30, I'm pretty good because I have about 60 to 70% normal. If I'm 35, it's about 50-50. If I'm 38, it's a third normal. If I'm 40, it's about 20 to 25% normal.
So there's an age component, as she just described. The older a woman gets, I think the percentage of normal eggs goes down for this particular procedure. And guys, if you remember what Ebony K. Williams said when she was talking to everybody about her fertility journey, her motherhood journey, I think each IVF attempt was $50,000. So she finally got one to work, but each one cost $50,000. Okay, so that you could see how quickly those numbers can add up. Do you have the credit for that? Do you have the money saved up for that? Who's going to pay for that? Okay, and this is something IVF. That was something that was, I remember the Democrats mentioning during the this last election cycle. This was being lumped in with women's reproductive rights and abortion. All right, so this is the math of this procedure. Fair use.
So you can see how that number of eggs that you have and the outcome differs. For the 30-year-old, the 7 embryos, if everything falls perfect, she should have 4 normal embryos. But that's if everything falls perfect. And what if it doesn't? What if our fertilization rates are lower or not as many embryos grow through the process? Average means that some people do better than average and some people do below. And we don't know that about an individual couple until we put them through the process.
Look,
Hold
the
on.
code to losing weight was cracked a long time ago. The problem is no.
Yeah. Just freaking have kids. Every one of these women giving you this advice, making you think that this is such an amazing thing that you should do and it's so simple. Most women can barely get by day to day on their existing expenses at this time. AI is coming around the corner. You think you're going to be able to afford 25 G's, 30 G's just to freeze the eggs? Your jobs are going to be at risk. So what you're seeing, my friends, is that the risk is significantly higher once you pass 30 years old. It gets ugly at that stage. And women don't understand that. Usually by the time they reach 35, 37-year-old, they're middle-aged. They're halfway through life.
All right. Somebody said that a couple of years ago, and it hurt a lot of feelings. But also, growing up, no one ever said that 30 years on is actually middle age. I think we grew up thinking that 40 years old, 50 years old, that was middle age. But there's a train of thought in this particular context that says that 30 years, 30 to 40 is middle aged. So someone hurt a lot of feelings a couple of years ago by saying that on their show every night. Fair use.
A lot of these women think that they're still young because they're not 50. Most people do not live to 100 years old. 77 is the average lifespan for most men, and 81 is the average lifespan for most women. So usually by the time they hit 40, they're middle age. And most of you are putting childbirth off until you're freaking halfway through your life. Freaking ridiculous. When you started having your periods at age 14, 15, that's when most of our ancestors start having kids. You all know.
Guys, think about that. Our ancestors. Okay, this is shout out to the nameless protagonist and the Mouse Utopia discussion and the technology outpacing the biology and culture and culture not knowing how to adapt to the technology, and also social movements and movements to indoctrinate and change gender relations. Our ancestors were starting that process as soon as their systems came online. But today it's wait. Or you have families who have accidents early. But our ancestors did it much earlier in their life cycles, and they weren't living as long. And they didn't have all of the technologies that we have today or the lives we have today. So, but I thought that was profound. That was profound when I heard him say this last night.
Oh, get this. Biology don't lie. Listen, this was a heavy session, my friends, but I hope you guys understand more now about what it takes to go through egg freezing. And I hope the women also understand that this isn't something that you should look at lightly. I hope the parents who are watching this can try to explain to their daughters why it's important for them to settle down when it's early and find a good man to settle down with, build with that man, why it's to her advantage to have kids when she's young. Understand that you don't have to be linear in your life achievements. In other words, don't think that you have to go to school first, then have a boyfriend next, then have a child next, then have a good job, then have a child, then get married. You know, all of these things can be done in combination. But one thing is more advantageous. You can go through all of life with a partner, a good partner and a good husband that you can work with, a man that you cooperate with, and both of you work together to get through life. It is much easier. And that is the general message of this video.
All right. So that video is below in the description box. And salute to Ask an Older Man, Mr. Paul Aiken. But then, then he said the straightest line for this is finding a man and a partner early on. But if we go back to the Steve Harvey video that even now, even 20 years later, that's making the rounds. I was thinking about this yesterday. What are with no rites of passage today? Okay, with a lot of culture, with culture altered. No, what am I talking about? What am I saying? With culture altered, with society more secular, with no rites of passage designating when a man becomes a boy becomes a man and a woman becomes a woman. What is the criteria for picking or even deciding or even thinking it's important to pick a productive man to be a partner and a good father? Okay, the Steve Harvey video, if you guys remember that one, one of the ladies, she said she had a list of 50 different things. She said, even if the man, you can go look at this. She said, even if the man hits on all of the things on the list, if there's no spark, then it doesn't matter. Okay, even if he hits on all of the things on my list, if there's no spark, it doesn't matter. So under this current construct, with variables like career and school and that spark has to be there. Okay. Throughout, the money has to be there. The spark has to be there. It's a very interesting quandary, isn't it? Is that the right use of that word? Is that the right? Is it quandary or quagmire? I think they're synonyms. Quandary. Yep, quandary. Quandary. We should always learn things on my channels. Quandary. A state of perplexity or uncertainty over what to do in a difficult situation. Okay. And then synonymous with quandary is quagmire. Shout out to my graduate advisor. Quagmire. Quagmire. A soft, boggy area of land that gives way underfoot. Okay, so this is, okay, here's the second bullet. An awkward, complex, or hazardous situation. So quandary and quagmire. It's quite the quandary. We'll go with quandary. It's quite the quandary today. And a lot of families are looking around and wondering, well, what's happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? How is this happening? Okay. Most pedestrians Most pedestrians don't understand the why, the what, and the why. All right, guys, that's all I've got. I have more to do here. I'm at 1 hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, as I promised, no 2 hours today. Hey guys, I'm gonna read some of your comments here. Thank you for those of you who hung out in the chat, and thank you for those who keep coming back to hear these thought-intensive, sometimes boring topics to people. I'll start here. Okay, Michael Ross has jokes. UFO Kamikaze has jokes today. You guys brought your jokes today. Michael Ross says facts, hence the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Cynical Optimist says, yep, just because something is frozen doesn't mean necessarily it won't be damaged during the thawing process. And you know what? On that same vein, scientifically, if you keep food in your freezer for too long, stuff will only keep in your freezer for so long before you pull it out and it's freezer burned, or it doesn't taste as good, or it's altered. It can still alter in the freezer. Okay. UFO Kamikaze says they're in the ice age. Gigami says there's a reason why in many cultures in the past, 15 to 16 years old was the age you entered adulthood in society. That's right. That's right. Gigami says biology doesn't follow ideology. Biology does not follow ideology. Yeah, some of these, this biology has been around for thousands and millions of years. And many of these ideological changes that have been superimposed on us in our biology have been here for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. So stuff just won't rewire because we think something is a good idea. Michael Ross says, yeah, right. Jamal says, the elusive spark. Yeah, that spark is something. That spark is something. You might think all of the boxes are checked, but if that spark is not there, if that chemistry, if that oomph is not there, everything else is for naught in terms of partnering. UFO Kamikaze says, me and my ex-wife always had kids that are basically adults now. My days of caring about their eggs ended long ago. Nice. UFO Kamikaze says already. Tony says LOL. Gigami says the freeze, defreeze, back and forth process alters the integrity of the structure. Yeah, that's just cell biology 101. I'm going to stop this, but when I was in my graduate research lab at the University of Michigan, I was in charge of expressing our protein of interest. And we used a cell line to grow that protein. And sometimes those cell lines, those cell cultures would get infected with fungus and they'd get lost. And we always had to keep stocks. Okay. And when you keep a stock of a cell line frozen at minus 80 degrees, the question is, will those cells grow? Will they be viable once we unthaw them? So that's cell biology 101. Sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't. How would you feel if you were frozen at minus 80 degrees for any amount of time and you were unthawed and expected to do what you're supposed to do? Biology. All right, guys, I got to run. Thank you for those of you who hung out here in the chat. If you're watching on the playback, let me know what you think. If you're watching this on the playback and you want to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are in the description box, and they are also in this ticker. Keep in mind, my Cash App, I have a business Cash App, which has 76 on the back of my name. And then there's a personal Cash App, which just has my name and me, maybe in this shirt with the Eclipse goggles, the Eclipse glasses. I mean, it all ends up in the same place, but it's good practice to acknowledge those who donate during the show, and sometimes I don't see them at the other account until after the show, which is why I'm checking both phones here. Money Motion, I think you made a donation to my Monday stream. I didn't see it until afterwards, so thank you for that. And I'm not seeing anything now, and that's okay. Jamal says, great show. Thank you. I hope you got something out of it. I think this is this is a science current event. This channel has evolved to doing lots of science current events and social topics. Science, it touches everything, whether it's the big beautiful bill. I like the way he stands by the podium and he does this thing where he's looking and he's talking and he's doing this and he's doing this. And so science touches everything. The big beautiful bill, the EV mandate, freezing eggs, climate change, science. Michael Ross. I do some good impersonations, but I do like when he's talking at the podium and he's grabbing the podium and he turns and he's talking to these people over there and he's leans his head like this and he's pontificating and ad-libbing and going off script and he's doing this and he's doing this and he's turns his head like this and Lion Ted, it's going to be a bill unlike any bill you've ever seen before. All right, let me stop. Let me quit while I'm ahead. But I'm glad, Michael Ross. I'm glad you like my Don Cheeto impersonation. So, everybody, my book, a little advertising here. This book, in addition to being a basketball story, it is about changed environments. That's a recurring theme here in this alleyway of YouTube. I'm selling signed copies here out of my condo unit for $22 for the paperback, and I'm selling the hard cover for $25 for you guys. If you guys want one, just use one of those payment methods there in the ticker. That's a significant markdown from what's on Amazon. On Amazon, the hardcover is going for $35, and the paperback is going for $27. But yeah, a lot of the themes we talk about, in this alleyway of YouTube are discussed in here. Changed environments is a big one, and what you weren't taught at home. Those are huge underpinnings of the story. So, Michael Ross, I'm glad you like my impersonations. All right, everybody, have a good Saturday. Again, no show next Saturday. I'll be away doing something else. But thank you all for the continued support and participation. So please like, share, and subscribe. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you all the next time. Bye-bye.